Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. I've been patiently waiting for the distant barking dog to stop. Well, it's been barking for an hour now. There's no sign of it stopping, so I thought it's a long way off. And this is not the yappy little dog just over here. This is a bigger dog, and it is a long way away. So hopefully it won't be distracting. But annoying, yes, but not necessarily distracting. It's the sort of thing you can shut out, I suppose. Right, first off, the Blast from the Past video that I brought forward was based on the orchid tag. That seemed to go down quite well, but it's not the sort of thing, you know, I can't repeat that sort of thing. That was like a one-off, so, you know, it's just, well, it seemed to go down quite well. The principle of the Blast from the Past will carry on, at least until we get up to the workload kicking in, because videos are just thin on the ground. There's not much going on. That's just how it is. So there will be gaps, like yesterday. No video yesterday. I couldn't think of anything to film, and I thought, I'm not just filming for the sake of it. We need a subject, you know, something worthwhile. So the Blast from the Past will still pick up older videos that I hope will be of interest. For those that were there in those really early days, it will be a memory. You know, oh, I remember that one, or yeah, whatever. For those who are newer to the channel, they won't have seen it, will they? So it's like a new video, although if it's based on my orchid grow room, it will be in the old grow room. The one thing that was an eye-opener in that video, in the orchid tag video, was I did it as a slideshow of all of the orchids that I'd had bloomed for me. So those were my pictures of my orchids. And it was shocking to me when I watched that through just how many good orchids were lost. Now, quite a few of those were lost in the old place as a consequence of being cooler growers, and they couldn't cope with the heat. Now we're the other way round. We've got warmer growers that are keeling over because they can't deal with the cold. So swings and roundabouts. But you have to bear in mind it's the nature of the beast as an orchid hobbyist. Unless you're confident that your environment is well suited to the particular orchids you've selected, then they will slowly but surely go downhill. And it may take years for them to finally give up. So they're not progressing, they're not expanding, they're not bulking up in the way they ought to do. And it's difficult to see this sometimes. But as I said, if the environment's not right for them, then this will surely happen at one speed or another. And what normally kicks them over is a massive shock. So it will be like a change of environment. You've gone from a greenhouse to bringing indoors, indoors to going outdoors, a shock of some sort, often combined with a repot. Repot being quite a shock. Upsetting the roots for some orchids is an absolute no-no. They really do object to it. I mean, I've got some cotyledons that are sensitive to repots. And some of them will sulk for up to 2 years, literally, you know. So you've got to go careful with the timing of your repot and the care which you take while you're doing it. It's important. At the end of the day, we've taken most of these orchids away from their environment that they should have and given them some alternative, and some adapt to that quite well and some don't. Right, so the Blast from the Past will continue as a weekly event, probably on Fridays most of the time. And they will vary. Some of them will be trips out, so having a look around, you know, the countryside, butterflies, native orchids, things like that. There won't be many visits to gardens because I haven't done many of those. And on that subject, one of the gardens is Wizzly, and I made a muck-up. I think it was last year, the visit to the Orchid Show, RHS Orchid Show at Wizzly, was combined with you know, a walk around the grounds and everything, and I lost all my video clips. And luckily, a very kind viewer donated her pictures. Okay, they were stills, but I managed to put them together as a slideshow and still get a video out of it, because I inadvertently deleted all my clips. I think I just got hold of the wrong folder and whacked it. It happens. Yes, but on that subject, Wizzly. Now, the RHS Wizzly Spring Orchid Fair, Orchid Show, whatever you want to call it, used to be in the RHS halls in central London, which is a pain in the proverbial to get to. You daren't drive there because there's nowhere to park. Not in central London. You don't get, you know, you can't just go down a side road. They're all double yellow lines with red bits on and, you know, no cars, do not park here, all that sort of stuff. And if you can find a space in one of their car parks, the actual, you know, local authority, whatever, the, you know, the organised car parks, they're like 12 quid an hour and silly things like that, because they don't want the cars in London. So it's hard work. I mean, I used to go when the show when I first got into orchids and joined the Orchid Society. They did a coach trip to RHS halls in central London. Well, when you're on a coach, the traffic don't matter, does it? It stops outside the door and off you get and walk in the door. Job done. If only it was that easy now. But yeah, in those days, they used to fill both halls with orchids. This was all the international traders would be there, all the UK traders would be there, the ones from the EU would be there, dozens of orchid societies with their own displays, 2 halls full of orchids. Massive show. And then over the years I gradually saw it go down and down until such time it was reduced to 1 hall. And then the orchid societies didn't seem to be there apart from just a few select ones. The traders went down, and eventually that show moved out to Wizzly Gardens, which is outside of the M25, which is important nowadays. And that's where it's been for the last few years. Now, I've heard rumours that this year's Spring Orchid Fair, Orchid Show, whatever you want to call it, is reverting back to central London because the weekend when it was going to be held, they're closing the roads to do some major roadworks. There's major roadworks going on outside Wizzly Gardens. It's an intersection between the A3 and the M25 that's just always been a hassle. It's never worked properly, and they've got all new slip roads and stuff like that, and apparently the apparatus and everything for putting a new section of road, a raised section of road, is going to be done on that weekend. I can find no evidence of this anywhere, but they're not telling anyone if that's what they're going to do. But I've got a feeler out to somebody who will definitely know because they display at that show. So if there is a change of venue or date or anything like that, I assume that person would have been notified by now, so I've got a little feeler out to see if I can get a bit more information. But the list of events at Wizzly Gardens shows no sign of the Orchid Show. It's not on the list, you know, which is slightly worrying. But then the RHS are very bad at updating their online presence, shall we say. They're not very good at all. They're very slow and often don't give you enough information, the sort that you really want. But that show might go to central London. If it does, unless I can get on some organised method of transport, then I won't be going. I'm certainly not taking the car. If somebody else that I know is daft enough to take a car and I can get a lift, then I'll join in with that. Or some sort of coach. I mean, Victoria Station is just up the road, walkable. Could get a coach from somewhere around here into London. The trouble is, the coach trip from here to London takes half a day. Well, and it takes half a day to get home again, which don't leave a lot of time for the show, does it? So it's not an ideal way to get into London. It's not that it goes a silly route or anything like that, it just stops in too many places, you know, and to do that it pulls off the motorway into a town, into a coach station, has a period there, you know, rest stop and all that, so it just takes too long. The train is just too expensive. I'm not paying that sort of money to go to an orchid show. So if it's at Wizzly, I'll be going, you know, simple as that. If it's not, then I probably won't. Which leaves the other big show, which is Malin, which has been going on for some considerable time. It was in a marquee. More recently it's moved into one of the buildings, which was you know, the first year it was in that building was marvellous. Last year Hannah didn't come, I went on my own, and it was a great day out because I can get there in the car in not too long. It's not that far away, and there's some good roads involved, so it's, you know, it's a relatively early start. For me that's not a problem. And I've had a communication come through which has gone out to many, so I won't be the only one that's got this one, that the people who organise it, which is the Three Counties Show Limited, I think it is, whatever, but it's an organisation, a body that actually organise that show at Malin, and it's massive, it's huge, and we've been part of that for as long as I can remember. I mean, at one point when I was a member of both societies, they would both have a display on, you know, lots of traders and everything, and it's been a good show. You can feel the negative vibe coming here, can't you? The people who organise it don't seem that happy to host it, reading between the lines, and they don't really want it to be part of the June Malin Three Counties show. They would prefer it to move to the autumn show in September, which for this year can't be done. There's already lots of other orchid shows booked up for September, which would involve traders and, you know, various things, so that doesn't seem an option. If it's going to be in June, then apparently we've got to move back out to a marquee, and the one they've offered is ridiculously priced. There's no way anybody's going to pay that, so we'd end up with a much smaller one and all be squashed in. And part of that show at Malin, International Orchid Show, is RHS judging. Now the venues where RHS judging can take place are getting thinner on the ground. That's one of the big ones where you can get your plant awarded, like I did once. And that takes place in a separate, you know, like a separate tent or a separate, you know, unit, shall we say, which it needs to be. The plants need to be taken out of their display areas and individually looked at by the judges. And they've said we can't have that. If we want judging, it'll have to be in the marquee where all the displays are, which that's just not workable. So they're making life difficult. That's the polite expression. And therefore, reading between the lines, it sounds like they'd just rather we weren't there in June. They would love to have us in September, but the fact that they chop and change their mind, you sort of wonder, well, when we start looking at 2025 to see what, you know, where that show's going to be, if it's all agreed that okay, we'll move to September, blah blah blah, they could change their mind again. So people are worried. Now, as an alternative, the alternative sounds pretty good, and I hope it takes off. It'll be more expensive and a little more awkward, but it will be worth it. They're thinking of joining in with Gardener's World Live, which is a BBC function that takes place at the NEC in Birmingham, the National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham. So road access is brilliant. There's a motorway straight to the door. Trains stop, you know, you can get off the train, walk along a walkway and into the exhibition centre. So access is good. facilities are excellent, you know, so being able to, just simple things like getting a coffee. You shouldn't have to queue for 2 hours. You probably have to pay through the nose though. But that's a possible plan. And some of the words that have been said, they are very keen to have us, to have the orchid community in their show. They're up for it. So we may be moving to there as the major show in June, because it takes place around the same time, so it would, you know, it would fit in. And all the famous gardening people are there, off the telly, they'll all be there. There's show gardens, you know, it's a big deal. So to become part of that was pretty good. I'll tell you how much they would like us there. If you've ever been to Chelsea Flower Show, there is a central marquee that's huge. You've got a job seat at the other end of it, where all the stuff goes. You know, all the sort of new gladioli, new roses. You know, it's a vast mixture of plants and shrubs and trees even. They have a similar thing going on, and they would like us in there, in the main arena, effectively. And they said, we'll even give you a corner so that you've got walls for your displays. They're very sound, very accommodating. And they've said, and to make it special, you know, the orchid area, they'd even be prepared to carpet it. I don't think that's going to make a big difference to the plants, but anyway, so yeah, the Wizzly Show sounds a bit iffy, although I haven't got it confirmed. The Malin Show sounds a bit iffy, and for me, on the south coast, there aren't any others, because the only other big shows are right up north and would involve at least one night stopping away, probably 2, and that bumps the cost right up, obviously. You know, you're looking at minimum of 80 odd quid, probably up near 100 if you're near the venue, because everybody bumps their prices up to go with an event like that. Times 2 plus the transport plus your food and everything, it gets silly. So no plans being made at the moment. We'll wait until things pan out and we know what the hell's going on. The Orchid Society shows are all nicely bedded in. We know when those are going to be. And we do have the first one of those coming up at the end of February. And we'll see how that goes. That's one that I don't video at, but I might take some pics on my phone or something. And if I decide not to, I'll get Lynn to take some pics on her phone. I'll borrow those. So there we go. Talking of Lynn, Lynn's found a camera. After about a break of about 6 months, she's loaded a few videos. So pop across and support her channel. She's a good friend. And she's going through her greenhouses. I know that sounds flash, but she's got one really big one that's divided. So it's got a warm section and an intermediate section, and then she's got a cool greenhouse where she grows most of her Mazda Valias and her Draculas, things like that. But she's done 2. She's done the warm bit and the intermediate bit. So looking at the plants and chatting about the changes she's made. Things have changed places quite dramatically. There's quite a bit that was in the warmer end that's now in the intermediate end, and some of the things have come out of the cool into the intermediate. Some of the intermediate's gone into the warm. So there's been things moving around, and certainly in the video of the warm section there's some good blooms to have a look at. So pop across and have a look at that. That'd be good. Talking of popping across, obviously on my gardening channel, that finding out about the requirements to get monetised on there was a bit of a blow, because it was getting close and now suddenly it's not. This is just annoying. But you know, the channel is still slowly growing, and with the number of videos that I can put together for the garden at this time of year being next to 0, I'm surprised it's growing at all. But you know, whereas I thought I needed 500 subscribers, I've now got 530. I now need 1,000, you know, so only the 470 to go. It sounds daunting, doesn't it? Yeah, compared with what it was. And with the watch hours as well, I thought I was aiming at 3,000. Well, with 2,400 we're not far off, and of course now it's 4,000. So instead of only needing 600, we now need 1,600 watch hours. So it's a long way off, you know. It's yeah, it's just a bit of a shot in the foot sort of feeling. So, but any help in that direction, gratefully received. I will probably stick the camera on the bird feeders one day this week. They seem to be enjoyed, and I have had some other visitors recently that haven't been around for a while, so I might do a, you know, compressed version of that. But otherwise, there's not much to film out there. I will film the tidying up of the garden when Hannah comes down. That's next weekend, all being well. All being well being weather. Now, we've had a cold spell. You know, I've had the heating on virtually all day, most days now, and you know, the door open, allowing some of that out here just to get my daytime temperature up. But next week apparently it's going to get proper cold, with a hint of snow. Up north are going to get snow. That's not open to debate. They're getting snow. Probably down into the north of England, Scotland and the north of England. But depending on how things move, and you know what it's like trying to predict tomorrow's hard enough, let alone 3 or 4 days' time. But I think it's Wednesday, there is a large front over France that's full of rain. It's moving north. Now, if it crosses the channel and hits the south coast, because of the temperatures, we will get heavy snow. Because the temperatures will just turn that rain to snow. So all along the south coast could go white. But at the moment, they don't think it will get that far north. They've been wrong before. So, when I say Hannah's down next weekend, that could be weather dependent. But the forecast for next weekend is that all this cold weather is just going to get blown away, blown across, sort of northeast direction, and will be replaced by milder air with possibility of some rain. So what we've got to do in the garden, as long as it's not chucking it down, if there is showers, we'll do it in the gaps. If it's continuous light rain, we'll just have to get wet, because I need this done and I need the help. So that will be for next weekend anyway. Right, what else? What's going on in here? Not a lot. We do have some buds, we do have some spikes, we do have some things going on. Now this week I dumped 2 plants, there's 2 more, gave up the ghost. One of them being, I haven't actually got round to throwing them out yet. So this one, that had a new growth on it. Well, you can see what's happened to that. That's gone. And the one leaf that's left, there's no base to this, it's soggy. And that was an Oncidium species, that was Chrysomorphum. And that was a gift quite a long time ago. That's just finally given up the ghost. It hasn't been looking good for a long time, but it's just gone. The new growth failed, so that's had it. And the other one, for those of you who have been around a while, is very sad, because this seriously objected to coming off the mount and going in a pot, and it just will not grow. And that was my tiny twinkle. That was a flipping good plant once upon a time. But not anymore, so that's gone. That's the 2 that went this week. And my other twinkles, there are 1, 2, 3, 4. One of which is not a twinkle, it's that Mexicoa, but they're together because they're Oncidium types on the rescue deck. So there's only 3 twinkles left out of all the ones I've had. There was 4, now there's 3, and the ones that are left, I don't know what they are. That was the only one, the tiny twinkle was the only one that had a tag in it. So we'll have to wait and see if, they're not dying, they look like they're picking up, so they might pull through. We shall see. But you know, once upon a time I had lots of twinkles, and I noticed Lynns twinkles are doing very well, thank you very much. Guess which section they're in? Yeah, they're in the warm section. Yeah, so perhaps those just don't like the temperature drop and the change of environment. All these things have an effect. So there we go. What else is going on? Not a lot really. It is just that time of year. So I'm not going to prolong this any longer than is necessary. I was just looking around to see if there's any new blooms. There aren't, not ones you haven't seen already. I wish, it's funny, you get, this is what it's like with orchid shows. You know, you've got a plant that's got loads of spikes on and it's not open for the show. And then you come home from the show and it's open and you think, you toad. And I was hoping that would be open today. That's Mazda Valia Inca Prince. It's a lovely large bloomed Mazda Valia, lovely bright orange. It will be there soon, but it's not there yet. It's a nuisance. That I was really hoping that would be open today, but no, we'll have to wait. That's how it goes. Probably be open tomorrow morning, day late. Where was I? Coffee. Yeah, so that's where we are. And I've said what I'm doing with the lights. About mid-February we will introduce the lights on the grounds that I want to go from whatever that day length is around then and get it back up to 12 hours in a relatively short space of time, hopefully over a period of 2 to 3 weeks. So it'll be like add an hour on to the normal day length for a few days, add another hour on or a half an hour, get it back up to 12 hours using the lights. I will rearrange the plants so that those I want to introduce spring early to, because it's important for them to gain some strength and mature over the period of time, those will be rearranged to be directly under the lights. So there'll be some shuffling around to do. And alongside that, as I get up, you know, towards the sort of 11-hour mark, at that point, spring should be starting to kick some of the plants. And to help with that, I'm going to use the thermostat during the day so that when it gets light, as the daylight gets to normal or heads that way, I'll bump the daytime temperature up 2 or 3 degrees using the heater. So it's going to cost a bit until the ambient temperature gives me that daytime temperature anyway, and the heater's no longer required. I'm going to keep the nighttime minimum at 15 as it is now. So it'll just be used to kick up the daytime temperature to go with the increase in day length, and I'm hoping that's going to kick things into life early enough that with the lower temperatures and everything they can still mature canes and bulbs, you know, naturally once the day lengths get up to a natural 13 hours, and then they start going higher than that anyway. So we've got more light in here this year. It's not a huge amount, but it's enough to make a possible difference just by the tree going missing. So, you know, I mean, if you think it was only towards the end of last year that it actually finally died, up till then it was green. So that was quite a large mass blocking out light into the garden. That's gone now, so that should make a bit of a difference. So yeah, so that's the plan on that front. I'm going to carry on with the viewers requested videos. Those are the regular Wednesday weekly video. Now I am getting thin. The list is getting down to the last few now. So if you've got any ideas to jump on that bandwagon, leave them in the comments section. So it's an idea for a video that you would like to see, preferably thinking about others, like just because you want to see it, would others want to see it as well? Leave your idea in the comments, we may do it. It needs to be possible. We have had some suggestions that are not possible. Yeah, I won't go into one of them because that was physically not possible. But yeah, so you know, those two regular things, blasts from the past, viewers requested videos, that should get us out into February, and you know, I'll hopefully be looking at starting work on the plants then, and we can start getting some repotting done. And on that front, I need to be looking at my media and planning in advance, you know, do I need any more? Do I need to order any to be brought to shows so that I can pick it up and not have to have it posted? So we may well be looking at that as well. I mean, Burnham's will be coming to the show in February. I can contact Sarah and she'll make sure that Arthur brings whatever I need and puts it under the bench for me when I get there. And or I can wait till our show a couple of weeks later, we can bring it there. And we're still not sure. Our show in March, early March, Peter White Accessories is rumoured to be coming. So, you know, that's good to have, you know, more pots. If I'm going to go with this liquid feed, the Dynagrow stuff, that will be there. No postage and all that sort of stuff. But Lynn hasn't got a final confirmation that he's coming yet, so we're still not sure. We shall see. I thought he was retired by now, I must admit. But the original plan, he was training up a girl to take over the business. She was going to run the business and take over from him, so she obviously needed to learn the ropes. But she decided that having babies was more important, so she's backed out of that now. So the business may fold. You know, it may cease to be. He may well carry on online only, because even a retired person can probably keep that sort of business ticking over. We shall see. It all remains to be seen. Yeah, that'll do. Now, as stated, I'm going to move spotlight videos on a particular orchid, one in question, not a genus, just a single orchid, and do a spotlight on it, brain dump everything I know and everything I can find out, mixture of the two, and that's going to be tagged on the end of the Sunday chat. So on the end of this video, following on now is a spotlight video. But if you want to know what the plant is, you'll have to carry on watching, because I'm not naming it. You'll have to wait and see. So thanks for dropping by. Thanks for all the support on the channel. We always do this on a Sunday. Thanks for those who watch the videos and leave the comments and do the thumbs up. That's the minimum, and that's greatly appreciated. For those who offer any financial support, again, thanks a bunch. You know, that's the channel membership, the Buy Me a Coffee for one-offs, and the Patreon site to actually make regular donations. All those things are greatly appreciated. So thanks a bunch for all that, and the support is, you know, the bare minimum support you can do is watch the videos. But in addition to that, if you can make sure you're subscribed and do the thumbs up on the ones you watch, that would be even better. And none of that costs anything apart from your time, which is again appreciated. But the subscription, the subscribe, it's a bad choice of word basically. There's no money involved. It's just, you know, you just subscribe to the channel, and it means if you have a watch page where your videos come up from people that you've subscribed to, it'll be on there, but it doesn't cost anything. So that's that. And I've, just as a quickie, I've ordered my super fast broadband. That will be installed on the 29th of this month. And as soon as it's up and running, I will cancel the one I've got. I'm not cancelling the one I've got before I've got the new one up and running. I don't want a period without any broadband and internet whatsoever. Can't be living like that. Terrible. So once that's in and running, it's a lot cheaper and 3 times as fast, so it's got to be worth doing. And then I can cancel the other one. The overlap, the difference in the price between what I'm paying now per month and the new price per month, that difference times 2 or 3 months will cover the cost of my existing broadband for the time it takes to cancel, because I think I have to give them 30 days notice. So I will be paying for 30 days that I won't be using. But that cost will soon be recuperated by the much cheaper cost of the one that's going to replace it. So I've worked it all out. Anyway, Thanks for dropping by. Day off tomorrow, Mondays. We don't do videos on Monday. So I will see you Tuesday for something as yet unknown. And for those of you who want to see the spotlight video, stick around, it's coming up now. Okay, spotlight today is Mazda Valia Igna. And I do believe this is my fourth one. And as I go through where this plant comes from and what sort of environment it ought to have, you can see why the other three never made it and this one isn't doing bad. Now this is endemic to Colombia on the eastern side, and it grows in tall forests at very high elevations. This is a cool grower, and above 25 degrees the plant becomes quite stressed and will often dump its leaves, which will explain why mine were lost round the other place that used to get up above 30, and sometimes for days on end and not cool down properly at night. This one likes a good difference between day and night temperatures. That's not always easy to achieve, and ideally ought to stay below 20 degrees C. Again, not always easy to achieve. Nonetheless, that's what it would like. It will put up with daytime temperatures a bit higher than that. The higher the temperatures, the more the humidity ought to be stepped up a bit. Yeah, if you can manage the lower temperatures, great, all well and good. Now, depending on where you look, most places will class this as a terrestrial. Some class it as an epiphyte. Chances are it's probably both under certain circumstances, but I know a fella that grows and hybridizes Mazda Valias that visited areas where this could be found in the wild and was shock horror, because he'd had trouble blooming his, and he found one growing in the middle of a field at a very high elevation in full sun, in full flower. And he came home with the thoughts, how was that surviving? Well, it was surviving because of the very cool temperatures and the breezes, yeah? So it was doing okay. It wasn't hot. It might have been in sunshine, but it wasn't hot. So it wasn't overheating the plant. And he then tried moving his Mazda Valia Igneas into much brighter light. And guess what they did? They burst into bloom. This is not a low light orchid if you want blooms. So if you've got one that doesn't bloom and your leaves seem to be a nice deep green colour, I'd suggest you try more light, and that's where mine's going to go. But before I do that, I want this plant more established than it is. This is a relatively new division. This came from mixed Mazda Valias. If you're interested in Mazda Valias and some of the other cooler growing things like Draculas and that, it's a good channel to go and have a look at, along with Lynn Smith. She's got a load as well. But I've never been able to grow this, and I'm determined to get this one to work because this is Hannah's favourite Mazda Valia of all time. And it's not open to debate, it's her all-time favourite. So it would be nice to get one to grow well. But I'm not going to put this in the bright light yet until it's better established. And it should be doing that now. We've got new growths here, here and here. And this is a not long matured new growth. So it's coming on. What I want to see is roots heading towards the edge of the pot, which I haven't got yet. So until I see a reasonable root system on this, I'm not going to give it that extra light. That extra light is purely for blooming purposes, not for growing purposes. I don't want to stress it out too much at the moment. It's been under the lights. When the lights were on, this was in a place where it got some extra light. But at a distance of 1.5 meters from the light, it wasn't overloading it, you know. It wasn't like putting it in full sun, let's put it that way. So, yeah. This can go down to very low temperatures, But in an ideal world, given that the rest of your environment may not be perfect, I would suggest somewhere between 10 and 20 degrees, and it should be happy, with a good difference between the night and the day temperatures. So if your night temperatures are down near the 10 mark, and you can add another 5 or 6 degrees onto that for your daytime temperatures, it should grow okay. If you do get warmer daytime temperatures, then you might need to up the humidity a bit. It's relative, obviously, but you know, the warmer it gets, the more it's going to transpire, the more it will lose moisture and may not be able to recover it through the roots. So it's not designed that way, it's not built that way, it's not built to expect to have to lose that much moisture through the leaves, through heat, because it doesn't come from that sort of place. It comes from high elevations, right up in the 3,000 metres sort of figure and above. So there you go. It has got one of the more unusual Mazda Valia flowers. Mazda Valia flowers, their nickname is the kite orchid because of the triangular look. And basically you've got 3 tails, one sticking upright and 2 coming down at you know, sort of whatever 360 divided by 3 is. That's 120, isn't it? Come on, I can do that sort of maths. Yeah, so if you imagine a circle with 3 segments, the little tails point off in those directions in the main, but this one doesn't. The top tail on Mazda Valia Igna arches over. So this one wouldn't be classed as a kite orchid because it's an oddity from that point of view. It's variable in colour, heading towards yellows, paler oranges, through the oranges, right into quite deep red. So it is quite variable. And if you can get one to grow well and then get to bloom well, that's absolutely superb. But they are rewarding. It's a lovely bright coloured Mazda Valia. But as Mazda Valias go, this is not one of the easiest. I'm giving it a go to try and get one going for Hannah so that she can see the blooms again. They don't come up in shows very often, although the Wessex Orchid Society, no, that's not Igna, that's Viciana. But yes, I'm determined to get this one to go, so I treat it with kid gloves. I head it well towards dryness, and if I can get it growing well, I will reconsider what it's growing in. As most places class this as a terrestrial, growing in the humus-rich forest floor, growing it in bark and perlite might not be the best of ideas. We may rethink that when it needs repotting, but that won't be for a bit. I need to get a good root system established first. So there we go, a spotlight on Mazda Valia Igna, however you want to say it. And yeah, added on to the end of the Sunday chat, which is where the spotlight videos will be. So there will be one a week on the Sunday, at the end of the Sunday chat, for the foreseeable future, till I run out of species. Doing a spotlight on a hybrid is not the idea really of a spotlight video, although some hybrids may creep in, but it's mainly going to be species, as that tends to be what spotlights are all about. So now what I've just discovered, I was under the impression that the snooker final was on this evening. It's actually on now and I'm missing it. So I'm going to get back in and settle down with a glass of wine and watch the snooker as I've been watching the heats and the semis and everything. So it would be nice to see the final. I find it difficult to watch a whole match. Although I like snooker, a whole match is pushing my concentration levels. But when it's Ronnie O'Sullivan, there's normally a bit of sparks going on and a bit of excitement, so we'll go in there. Settle down and see what's going on. Last time I looked it was 2-2. So that's like starting from scratch, isn't it, if you think about it. So we will go and see what's left of that match. Probably be about I think it's best of 19 this time round, so first 1 to 10. So I doubt if I've missed too many frames. And I will see you next time. Don't forget, very rewarding Mazda Valia. It is a cool grower. Most say it's a terrestrial, and it comes from tall, very high elevation forests. And the tall is quite important because tall forests let quite a bit of light in. That's the thing. This is not dense jungle type forest. This is tall, spindly stuff. Probably not with huge amounts of foliage because of the elevation. You know, you're heading up towards the tree line at that height. So forest is getting thin on the ground. And if most of the time it's growing on the ground in a forest, then obviously there's a lot of leaf litter, and that would be a humus rich type soil. So although it's growing on the ground, you could say it's growing in the leaf litter, not the dirt. So bear that in mind. So there we go. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.